Hakuho listeners, let's learn sumo. I'm Clayton. Don't forget to join me on X and Instagram. Now, you can listen to this podcast on your favourite pod streamer. You can also listen on YouTube where it has playlists, and that's very important. Based on tonight's episode, it is sad news. News reports and rumours have abounded for the past few weeks of a possible retirement from the Japan Sumo Association of the one and only, the legendary Yokozuna Hakuho. Now, this comes about as the Yokozuna has spent the past year within the Isegahama stable, as his own stable, Miyagino stable, was merged into the Isegahama group. Now, there was a scandal involving former top division wrestler of Miyagino stable that Hakuho controlled as the Oyakata. That wrestler was called Hokuseiho. Now, he was accused of various misdeeds, including violence, theft and bullying of his fellow Miyagino compatriot wrestlers, all under the eye of their Oyakata Miyagino, the former Yokozuna Hakuho. Now, to understand the full nature of that scandal involving Miyagino Oyakata Hakuho and his disgraced wrestler Hokuseiho, you can go back to the episode from last year as it happened, and also a documentary I did on Hokuseiho as well. Check the playlist of YouTube for those episodes to catch up on how we got to this point. Now, after the resignation of Hokuseiho, the Yokozuna Hakuho was demoted to the lowest rank Oyakata within the JSA, and his stable, Miyagino stable, was devolved and merged with the powerhouse Isegahama stable, pretty much to kill it off. Isegahama Oyakata is a famously intimidating man with all of his wrestlers are very disciplined. Now, all it needs is a stern look, a raised eyebrow from the Oyakata, and that's all he needs to gain compliance from his most junior wrestler to his most senior student, former Yokozuna Terunofuji. Now, the sad part of the whole affair, and perhaps the most unfair bit, was that all of the other wrestlers who were victims of Hokuseiho from Miyagino stable had to transfer as well to Isegahama stable, and their living conditions were apparently not great. Now, they ended up sharing a basement across the road as living quarters with limited bathroom facilities, limited everything. They had all of their access to outside influences cut. They were not allowed to socialise. There was no media, no parties, no going out. All of their contact with the outside world was seriously restricted for a time as Isegahama took total control of Miyagino stable and effectively limited the damage, seemingly to the JSA, probably more than anything else. A string of retirements ensued over the past year from the former Miyagino wrestlers who just lost control of their lives entirely. And they ended up in those poor living conditions, sharing single facilities and effectively being cut off from their social lives. And there was no end in sight. Now, favoured wrestlers like Hakuho's protege, Hakuoho, well, look, he seemingly has thrived within the stable as he made it to top division and he's pretty much stayed there. All the while, the JSA board has refused to discuss the Hakuho situation or make any moves to reconstitute the Miyagino stable or allow Hakuho any control. They were, however, forced to accept and run the Hakuho Cup, which is held in February every year at the Kokugikan Sumo Stadium in Tokyo. Now, it's a junior tournament with all-comers from all over Japan and internationally who come and compete in the Yokozuna's named tournament. It was a close-run thing this year, but a bit of pressure was said to be applied to the board of the JSA to continue that, so they had to acquiesce and hold the tournament again. Now, before the May tournament, there were rumblings in the tabloids about Hakuho's future. With Isegahama Oyakata reaching the forced retirement age of 65 coming up in the first days of the July tournament, it's already been decided that the Yokozuna Terunofuji will take over Isegahama stable. Now, this left Hakuho in the position of being ordered around by his junior Yokozuna Terunofuji. It's an untenable situation. As a result, it's reported last week that Hakuho had submitted his resignation to the JSA, such that the JSA were yet to accept, but had called a meeting for today, Monday the 2nd of June, to determine the fate of Hakuho and Miyagino stable. Now news has started to emerge that they've accepted, and Hakuho will hold a press conference at the end of the week. The Mongolian Yokozuna has had a rocky relationship with the JSA, even after being the most successful wrestler of all time. Now, Hakuho notched up an amazing 45 Yusho wins and is the longest serving Yokozuna of all time. No one even comes close to his records in sumo. He won tournaments from 2006 all the way through to his retirement in 2021. An abrasive and prickly wrestler, his style sometimes comes into conflict with the Japanese more understated attitude. The bullying scandal at Miyagino stable, as bad as it was not the first violent scandal, not the first bullying allegations to come about in sumo. And even since, there have been whispers of other scandals quickly papered over by the JSA. Nothing to see here. It's clear that the JSA have begrudgingly kept Hakuho in the organisation, all the while creating a humiliating position for him. The move to make Terunofuji his senior has become too much to accept, and he reportedly submitted his resignation and flew to Mongolia last week. But there were other options open to the JSA. They could accept the resignation and leave an enormous hole and a lot of egg on the face of the JSA and their president, Hakaku. This is much their scandal as Hakuho's. Their consistent failure to control bullying amongst many other stables, a culture of violence seemingly only punished when it was Hakuho's fault. And now that news has come about that they've accepted his resignation, we should ask, should they actually have accepted? Could they have now, knowing that Hakuho has accepted his cultural fate, given him a chance to reform Miyagino stable on a more limited and supervised basis? Now, they could have limited how many wrestlers he had, give his stablemates the chance to reform. Unfortunately, now that Hakuho's resignation has been accepted, those former stablemates, forced to go to Isagahama, now have a choice to either retire like Hakuho or stay at Isagahama and likely be unhappy. Alas, they must now accept their fate and either make their life or retire. It's a most unfair situation, as they are all fairly blameless in this whole matter. I strongly suspect the JSA and Hakaku are happy to be rid of the Yokozuna who doesn't fit their conservative view of sumo and the world. And that will be an incredible shame and a blight on Hakaku's tenure at the top of the JSA. If anything needs to happen in sumo, it is Hakaku's retirement. Hakuho is not entirely blameless, but given his stature and history in the sport, I think he deserved a second chance. And that will be Hakaku's fault that he didn't give that chance. Hakioi, let's learn sumo.